everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright.
Hello, Nikki Kinzer.
Hello.
Are you having a good day?
I'm having a great day. How
I'm
about
sure you are. I'm having a great day. No, it's a good day. It's the first. It's the last day of school yesterday for one of my kids, and
Awesome.
and a whole new week of school for another one of my kids. So we're in that no man's land.
Transition.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I feel bad for my older kid who has another week of school. Oh.
And she gets to see her brother sleep in.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are talking about decision making today. It's a follow-up from our conversation, some communication we've had from a listener last week. We're moving into some hardcore decision making action.
Well, kind of. I don't know if I would say
you bought the
hardcore.
seat, but you'll only need the edge. It's decision making.
It was definitely an inspiration when she was talking about just having so many decisions. And
Yeah.
I thought, I had some things come up in my business that I had to make some decisions, and they were really tough ones. And that's
Yeah.
what I want to talk about is how do we finally get to a point where we can just make the decision and move on?
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I love this conversation. Before we get into it, though, head over to takecontroladhd.com. Get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, which is really the best way to be notified whenever new stuff comes out from Take Control ADHD. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD or call us. You can leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD. We would love to get your voice on the show. Now, also, before we dig in, we have a major announcement.
Yes,
This
drum
is
roll.
the drum roll announcement.
Woo!
What have you been working on? What have you hold yourself up in the cave of your office to
I
bring
know.
something new unto the world?
I've hinted in some past shows that I've been working on a big project, right?
You have, yes.
Yes. And I'm thrilled to say it's finally here for the public to see and not just for me to edit and review and see. So I'm very excited about that. It basically what I've done is I've developed an online organizing course, and it is called Organizing Your Space Your Way.
Outstanding.
Yes. So this online course is basically a step-by-step training, and it breaks down the project of organizing into steps. So I go through each of the steps, and it's a fantastic way to approach organizing. Definitely specific for ADHD. I talk about the connection between organizing and ADHD, and I mean, there's just so much in it. I love it. I'm very passionate about it.
I think that's really important, that this is designed for ADHD. It is a systematic approach for ADHD because organizing systems have been central to your work for years and years and years. Like you have refined this for years. And, when you started in strictly organized, before you ended up making that pivot to ADHD, you've been working on this kind of stuff. So this really, it represents, a lot of work, years of work in a way that is super approachable to folks who are living with ADHD.
It is. And, and I'm passionate about that because I think that a lot of times people feel like it's not possible to organize with ADHD. And I know that we've had, in the last few shows, we've been talking about this and the limiting belief around, is it possible? But that, it is. And so if I can help shift that mindset that it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be exactly what I see in the books or the magazines. I can do this in my own way. Then I feel like I'm bringing some good in the world.
So, okay, let's dig into a few of the details here. Tell me what is in this program.
Yeah, how it works.
Yeah, how is it built? How is it built out? I was going to ask the question: how is this different from the book that you have written? And I think that's a fair question, and some people may want to know who have already bought the book and read the book. Your fans,
right. Well, and the book that I wrote is called Taking Control of Your Space, and that book was written when I was a professional organizer. It does not really specifically talk about ADHD. It really just walks through the process of Carol and I. Remember Carol?
Oh, Carol.
And what it's like to work with a professional organizer.
Yeah.
What's very similar are the steps, because I have basically broken down organizing into 4 steps. And those 4 steps you do learn in the book. What is different about this program is I go into much more detail about these steps. There's more examples. It's not based just on the experience of working with a professional organizer. It's just really more in depth.
It's so important. Again, if you're living with ADHD, it's so important to hear those examples, to see them through pictures and hear your voice.
Yes.
So let's talk about how the program works. What makes it up?
So basically what happens is the program is broken up into modules, and there's a module for each organizing step. Inside each module, you're going to find multiple lessons. So I've really broken it down because I don't want to overwhelm people taking this course. And I know that sometimes that happens because there's just a lot of information. So I've broken things down so you can just, read or listen to one lesson. The videos are typically anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes long, I think is the maximum one. So it's really bite-sized chunks of information. Now, you also have ongoing access to the program, so you don't have a time frame. You can actually review it at your own pace, anytime, anywhere. So my hope is that you come back to this program when you're beginning a new project or you just want to review your organizing skills. So it's not something necessarily just to be reviewed once. It's something that you have access to all the time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Lots of strategies, lots of ideas. One of the things that I do ask is that I don't think that people are going to get organized by just watching and listening to me talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. And so one of the things I do ask at the beginning of the program is for you to choose one small space to practice. So there's lots of action steps at the end of each lesson. So for you to really kind of grasp and understand the concepts. And that's where these discussion boards also help, because if you get stuck on a particular action step or something isn't clear, you can use the discussion board to ask the question. Somebody from my team will get back to you. But what I really love about the discussion boards is that it's a way for people who are taking the course to connect with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a great way to, share your progress, be accountable, and really help other people with their journey as well. So there's just so much value to that connection. And I'm really glad to bring that a part of this too.
Well, I think so too. And the fact is, having that human connection is one of the things that sets it apart from other online sort of coaching programs. It's the fact that there is humanity behind this thing, and that community makes a difference. I can't cook by watching Top Chef, right? At some point, I have to practice, and I have to engage, and I have to get help, and I have to learn. And so, that's what I think about. At some point, I have to pick a space, and I have to get to work, and I have to ask the world for assistance in moving to the next chapter. And that's, I think, very much what this does. And so, when do you want to talk a little bit about what other materials included, or shall we move on to when people can get it?
Well, you're a part of one of those additional materials.
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about.
I think we should probably add that. Well, I have 2 additional bonus modules outside of just learning the process of organizing. The first bonus module is organizing your closet. So it's this massive closet makeover. So the whole module is just dedicated on closets. And then from our very own Pete Wright, drum roll over there.
Yes.
You have added a module on your favorite apps and tools on how to organize with ADHD. So I'm very excited that you get to be a part of this as well.
I am too. I'm so glad to be invited. So I hope, we've talked a lot about the technology and tools that I use over the years that we've been doing this show. And so this was an opportunity to really kind of package up some of my very favorites and talk about, what does a technological organizing system look like, and how can that help you throughout the day. So very excited.
So I'm excited about that. Yeah. So for more information on the program, please visit my website, Take Control ADHD, and on the menu bar, you're going to see courses, and you're going to learn all about organizing your space your way. And one of the things I just want to say before we move on to the show is I know that not everyone can afford one-on-one coaching, and this is just a really great alternative. It's affordable. You're going to learn the entire organizing process and still get that extra support that you need through the discussion boards inside of the training. So I really do hope you check it out, and I hope to see you there.
Fantastic. Can't wait to get this out into the world.
Yes, I'm very excited about it.
All right. Well, let's jump into our topic for today, shall we?
Yes. Decision making.
Yes. You want to give us a little bit of background on this one, where this one came from, for those who haven't caught up with the last show?
Yes. So in the last show, we had a question, and it was about organizing. And one of the things that she was struggling with is she was just having too many decisions on where and what and how she should organize her kids' clothes. And in the show, I definitely gave her some different suggestions and advice on what to do, and really, to more than anything, just to be kind to herself and not put so much pressure on what she should do. So this sort of, and it inspired me, because I was thinking, gosh, decision making, it's hard. It's very difficult. And recently I had to make a couple of decisions that really had me baffled, and they were business decisions. And it was very clear that I was not moving forward on my projects because these decisions had not been made yet. You ever felt that way? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really felt stuck, at a loss. I had no idea what to do. And, the anxiety inside of me was just, it was awful. And so I have to be honest, because I really do feel that a part of what was going on is I knew that once I made the decision, there was no turning back. And so there was some definite fear that was a driving force of me on why I was avoiding these decisions, basically.
Right.
But as we know, Pete Wright, avoidance as a strategy doesn't really work.
It's a lesson you think that you can learn once and be finished learning, but man, does that come back to bite me.
Yeah, it really just isn't a good strategy. I knew I had to make a decision. And so before I tell you what I did, I'm really curious to hear from you. What do you do? Like, when you are stuck with making a decision and you have to make it, like there is no way around it. What do you do, Pete? How do you get past that?
You told me that I should be prepared to answer this, and yes. I have been thinking so hard about it. Like, what is it that I really that I do when I'm facing tough decisions? I asked my wife last night, I'm thinking, how do we make decisions when they're really hard? And one of the things that she came back to, and we have a number of different sort of categories, right, of how we make decisions depending on the context. And that's really important. In the case of, sorting, right, difficult decisions for whether or not to get rid of stuff, I tend to go back to some of the advice that you give. Like, if it really is difficult and you're in the middle of the sorting process, put it aside, keep it, default to keep whatever it is you're trying to decide, and come back to it when that decision, when you've percolated on that a little bit. But when I'm facing something that's deadline based, I typically have, I have kind of categories of how I'm forcing myself to move through decisions. But ultimately, I think I start with research. Right? I research what the constraints are around this difficult decision. I try to get as much objective data as I can around whatever subject I'm dealing with. I ask experts for help, right? I try to find somebody who may know more about the decision than I do. I explore. I try to invest myself in the thing. I'm thinking specifically now about like picking a school for my kids. I try to visit the school. I talk to teachers. I talk to other parents. I talk to other kids. I try to get as much data from those who are more experienced than I do. And finally, and this is the part that continuously I have to learn and relearn. I just have to pull the trigger. And right at some point, I have to be okay with the fact that this decision will be made, and I will have to adjust to the new world after I have made it. I have to do that. And that is where if I'm going to get hung up, that's where I'm going to get hung up, because there's this sort of valley of despair, right? This valley through which you think, oh my God, I can't make the decision, or I've made the decision, or I don't know how I'm going to live having made the decision. Right. But on the other side of it, there is this new normal, and it's okay, and life will get better, and you'll be able to move through it. And this decision will just be a thing of the past. So that's kind of how I approach it. I know I feel like I've just rambled a little bit, but it's a hard question. It is a hard question.
Well, I actually approach it in a very similar way as you do. When you talk about research, one of the things that I definitely do is ask for help. I will ask from people, like you said, experts or friends, family, anybody that will listen. you know, ask the podcast people, hey,
right.
listeners, what do you guys
think?
Right,
ask the community. Sure.
That's right. But it was interesting because the couple of decisions that I had to make recently were business type of decisions. And so one of the sources that I went to was a networking group on Facebook. And I was telling them about this decision that I had to make. And to put it in context, I was basically trying to decide between two different platforms to serve a specific side of my business. And there was a response that was given to me that it just really hit hard. It really resonated with me. And this is what he said. He said, they all have good and bad stories with them. The point is, decide and be done with it. Use all that mental energy you have now gotten back to focus on giving the best possible product with the tools you have chosen. Indecision is worse than making the wrong one. Either way, make it great and have a backup plan. And then there was a follow-up from his comment with somebody else that said, best advice ever for all things business. Commit and move on with plan B and C in your pocket.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That gets to my sort of valley of despair thing. Like, you got to move through it somehow. You
got to pull that trigger, right? Is what you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for me, what resonated with it was such a good reminder that being in the place of indecision was giving me so much more anxiety than if I just made the decision, be done with it, and then really focus on learning that platform and becoming really comfortable with it, so that I wasn't fearing it. I wasn't insecure about it. And, really focusing that mental energy on what I should be focused on. And it was just a really good reminder. And that word energy really stuck with me because I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. All of this anxiety and mental energy is going to something that is really ridiculous, right? Because Truly. Once I make the decision and you say, pull the trigger and just know that whatever the consequences are or whatever the fallout is, it will be okay. Like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. That may offer you the opportunity to make a new decision. But that's the whole discussion of opportunity cost that I think is undervalued in decision making, right? It's this idea that the benefit of making a decision is not just that the decision is made, but that the energy you put into the decision before you made it actually gets to be funneled into something new.
Right.
And I think when we think about it in that perspective, when we think about it as a flow of attention that we are able to channel into new projects, I think that is something that we don't often think enough about when we're thinking about the benefit of just moving on.
Yeah.
Out of the fear of making the wrong decision into the opportunity that comes with having made a decision.
Well, and one last thing that I want to say that I do when it comes to making a bigger decision is I do take the time that I need within reason to kind of just sit with it and to really reflect and listen to my intuition. And I have to ask myself, what feels right? What am I most comfortable with? What am I really afraid of? And I had to ask that question when it came to this platform, and I'm afraid of technology. I'll just throw it out there. Be right. I am not wired like you. Technology, that's what I was afraid of, is technology. And so then you have to break that down and say, okay, really, what do I really need to know? And what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? The only thing that I want to emphasize is the time frame of reflection, because we can also get stuck here thinking that, all right, I just have to keep reflecting on it, and then that's almost an avoidance strategy. Same thing with research. Well, I just have to keep asking more people. I just have to keep Googling and gather more information. But that can also be a way for us to avoid it. So just, be aware, I think, would be my only suggestion for people, is don't get stuck in these two areas. Because again, we have to wrap back to what we've been saying, is you have to make that decision, focus your energy where you want to focus it on. And I don't know, there's something about just having the confidence to know that everything's going to be okay too.
It is okay. And that's what they say about the greatest leaders are able to make decisions without 100% of the information, right? They have confidence, and they have a little faith that, just making a decision will create new opportunity, whatever that is. It's going to be, there's some part of it that will be unknown.
Yeah. I like that faith, having a little faith.
Have a little faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Oh, great way to end.
Well, yeah, I think so too.
I like it.
That's a good one. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. Don't forget, go check out this new online course from Nikki.
Yes, Organizing Your Space Your Way.
Yes, Organizing Your Space Your Way. Right at the website, takecontroladhd.com. Of course, write in with questions. Love to hear from you on Twitter or Facebook at takecontroladhd. Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.